Hi everyone, my name is Mackenzie Matthews and I will be discussing my research project that I completed for my master's degree in early childhood special ed. So I completed a research project that investigated the effectiveness of various reinforcement schedules in relation to on-task behavior. So just a little bit of background information. Reinforcement is the action of or process of reinforcing or strengthening. So we use reinforcement a lot in education when trying to increase a desired behavior or decrease an undesired behavior. In this case, I was using reinforcement to increase a desired behavior, which was on-task behavior during an adult-led activity. Little research has been completed that investigates the effectiveness of fixed interval versus variable interval reinforcement. So for my study, I focused on fixed interval reinforcement and variable interval reinforcement and the differences between the two, and what was more effective in relation to on-task behavior. Just in general in education, a lack of highly trained behavior analysts in schools requires teachers to really learn how to implement these reinforcement schedules on their own in order to decrease problem behaviors. The district that I personally work in has a wonderful behavior analyst, but she is district-wide. So we have a lot of these times that we are required to kind of come up with these schedules by ourselves, and really play around with what works best. So this research study was a great way for me to be able to kind of explore what's going to work best moving forward in my teaching career. So like I said, the purpose of the study was to investigate the effects of variable interval versus fixed interval reinforcement in relation to the percentage of on-task behavior during one daily routine. For this study, we chose circle time, and we chose the morning meeting circle time, which consists of calendar, songs, choosing jobs, attendance, things like that. And the research question was, does fixed interval reinforcement or variable interval reinforcement yield the greatest percentage of on-task behavior? So for this study, I had one participant, a 5-year-old male who was diagnosed with ASD. He attended school in a rural preschool in an integrated classroom. So there were 14 students total, 5 of which were receiving special education services. There was one teacher in addition to myself, and then 2 educational assistants as well. For data collection, I used the percentage of on-task behavior. So I recorded the length of the total circle time and then took the length of on-task behavior and just divided the two to get a percentage. And I did this in minutes. I used M&Ms as a reinforcement. So a reinforcement inventory was completed at the beginning of this study to determine what would be a motivating reinforcer. And edibles were really high on this student's list of reinforcers, so we decided to go with M&Ms. And then we alternated between fixed and variable interval reinforcement. Each session was between 15 to 20 minutes total. It just kind of depended on the day and how long that circle time was. And then an alternating treatments design was used to determine what type of reinforcement we would be using that day. So in our results section, we have some different sections here. So this is our baseline, and the baseline was kind of all over the place at the beginning. And once it kind of leveled out, then we decided to move into treatment. This bottom line is our fixed interval reinforcement, and the top line is our variable interval reinforcement. So I did multiple sessions of each type of reinforcement in order to determine a trend. And then once a trend was determined, I moved on to maintenance, which I did variable reinforcement with because that was determined to produce the highest percentage of on-task behavior. So down here you can see the data that shows what kind of goes on in the graph. So the means, the variability, and the trend. And it's interesting to me that the maintenance variable interval has a positive trend, but the variable interval during this treatment time is a negative trend. So moving on to the discussion. So some similarities, there's lots of research studies on individual reinforcement schedules. You can look anywhere and there's studies on fixed interval, there's studies on variable interval, there's studies on, all the different types of different reinforcement schedules. But there aren't a whole lot of studies that focus on the difference between two reinforcement schedules and compared the two together. Another similarity, previous research has shown a large impact on variable reinforcement on-task behavior. So that's kind of where this study came from. We know that variable reinforcement does play a big part on-task behavior, so we're just kind of comparing that to see if other reinforcement schedules also have that effect. And then another difference was the study focused on preschool age students. So a lot of the studies that I could find were really focused on elementary or middle school age students. There wasn't a lot of research that focused on preschool age students or high school students. It was really more that in-between age group. Some limitations of the study, only one student participated. So, this could be how this student reacted to these reinforcement schedules, but a different student could react a different way. So future research, I would recommend conducting the study with more participants. Frequent student absences were difficult. We completed this study during COVID. I was absent, the student was absent, and that just kind of made it difficult to have consistent data taken when there were so many absences. This was not a diverse population, and a reinforcement inventory was conducted, but wasn't a vast reinforcement inventory. Some suggestions for the field. Variable reinforcement does appear to be more effective than fixed reinforcement. And teachers should use variable interval reinforcement when trying to increase on-task behavior during adult-directed activities. And then some future research differences between reinforcers, and then conducting the study with older participants. Thank you.